welcome to another edition of Motorman and RudeDog. Little bit of a hiatus, cough, cough, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Free agency is upon us. This is not where we give out the Lombardi. I love this song. Gosh, it's killing me over here. This is Rudy Reyes welcoming Scott Morganroth to the show. Scott, how are you? I know you're in a quarantine right now. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that quarantine kind of gets it done a little. I was in Arizona last week where we were disconnected from the whole thing until all of a sudden reality set in on Thursday and the rest of spring training was canceled. But we did get 3 out of 4 games in and hit all the stadiums necessary, so no complaint. But, yeah, I got to tell you, RudeDog, Arizona's another world, man. I tell you, I could have stayed out there another day or two, but, with this COVID-19 business here, it did put a wrinkle in some things. I'm really happy what we did, yeah. But I always glad to be on the program with you, as always, because we have a lot of energy, a lot of information, and no shortage of opinions.
No, there's no shortage of opinions here. There's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA. I guess you can call the sports casualty of sports casualties. There hasn't been a show. Everybody is playing reruns, repeats, rinse and repeat for those shows. ESPN's doing it. Not that it's a plug-in for ESPN, but they're all about the rerun. And right now, that's exactly what they're doing for everyone. For everybody who's stuck indoors and doing what they're doing to try to keep themselves occupied and keep their mind off of the sports that basically is not being seen. It's not being witnessed. And it has to be kind of unfair if you think about it. I mean, and what's really interesting is that it took for Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, to pass away, and now all of a sudden this COVID-19 business, as coronavirus has kind of taken the sports and making sports no longer fun. So instead of sports going viral, this is going viral, and it's not the good kind of viral, I can assure you. Speaking of viral, we got a lot of viral things going on. Free Agency Tracker, the latest casualty of this is Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley getting cut after being the Offensive Player of the Year in 2017. Scott, what do you think about this cut? Was it wise for the Rams to dump all this money, and not to mention they have $20 million in dead cap space by cutting Todd Gurley?
Well, what you're dealing with is Todd has a lot of injury problems, and of course the Rams traded all their draft picks away to get certain. So they're trying to restock their draft cabinet before the draft. So, Todd Gurley went out there and said, "Man, that stinks. I get cut on my day off." Todd, welcome to the NFL, where you're really out a 1-year contract, but boy, that money number looks really good up front. But when you are definitely dealing with injuries and they owe you millions of dollars, and life isn't very fair. And Todd Gurley found out how cruel the NFL business is, but he won't be unemployed long. Now, whether he gets the same amount of money that he had with the Rams, it remains to be seen. But I guess you could just say that's the business. And when NFL players want a lot of money, then cases like this remind you better take what you can get because your window is really short.
Yeah, no, it definitely is short. I mean, the actual shelf life, people were complaining about the CBA and how it's affecting running backs and devaluing their position. Let's square this up right now, shall we? The fact alone that the new CBA was ratified has nothing to do with the running back position being diminished as being a part of the offensive line. To create balance on that line, you need at least a fullback, if not a running back, if not both, for that matter. But with that being said, now you have a situation where Gurley could have 2 potential landing spots. One of them is Atlanta. Why Atlanta? Well, it's in the NFC, maybe a different time zone, but it's still in the NFC, and they dumped off Devontae Freeman, former Falcon, now making room for guys like Todd Gurley. There's still some hot names out there. I don't know how hot Jameis Winston is. I mean, his interceptions are hotter than completions. And then you look at, oh, wait, he just got intercepted. Forget it. He's not going to be picked up by a team because his attempt with his agent was intercepted by the opposing defense. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. This is Rudy Reyes, Scott Morganroth at Take No Punches. Like it, love it. Never leave it. Share it, please, because we like that kind of thing around here. So Todd Gurley could land in Atlanta. People want him to land other places. I think he'd look great in Tampa Bay, speaking of Tampa Bay, where Tom Brady, the historic pick of all picks, to get 6-time Super Bowl winner, now after 20 years in New England finds his way to Tampa Bay. Same time frame, he did it for his family. Todd Gurley can follow suit. It's great from a passing yard standpoint if you're Tom Brady. Not so good if you're a guy by the name of Todd Gurley. That'd be the only reason why I don't foresee him fitting there, but I see him fitting the used to former two-headed monster in Atlanta. Behind Ryan would have been Devontae Freeman. Of course, we know what happened to his other cohort, goes on to another team. But where do you see Todd Gurley landing here? Is it Atlanta? Is it Pittsburgh? Where does he go?
You make a whole lot of sense about Atlanta, and I'll tell you why. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that he played for the University of Georgia. So, playing in his home state where he played college ball in that stadium, I think would be ideal. I'm not so sure about Tampa at all. I think they've got a couple of good running backs, and I'm not so sure whether or not Pittsburgh's a good fit, although you never know. That would be, if I had to put them in the order, I would say Atlanta, because you convinced me of that one already, because of the University of Georgia connection. I would put Pittsburgh second and Tampa third. That would be what I would do.
Well, yeah, because, in offseason, Steelers don't usually make a splash in free agency. They really don't. I mean, historically, they haven't. They did it during last year's regular season where they gave a first-round pick to Miami in order to acquire Minkah Fitzpatrick, who obviously paid his way in gold with six interceptions. But I think more importantly, they acquired Derek Watt, comes over, plays with his brother TJ. Now all we need is J.J. Watt to complete the wattage on that defensive line in Pittsburgh. But to see Derek Watt go in and lead the Chargers, I mean, he wasn't used primarily anyway. He wasn't a featured back no matter what. He's more like a fullback. However,
spoken like a true Pittsburgh fan. I remember taking a picture of you down here at the Super Bowl with your Pittsburgh Steelers helmet. Meanwhile, the Lions were on the other side, and we were gassed at that point. I couldn't get mine with the Lion, but now we got to give you your Steelers too, Rudy. Okay, so you want Watts out in the Three Rivers area. I give you your due there.
Wattage. You got to have the wattage. Yeah. You got to be able to turn up the sound. But more interesting than that, I think Todd Gurley would do really good if Derek Watt was up front blocking for him. I think Todd Gurley would be the X factor outside of James Conner. That's when you use James on the opposite side, put Todd Gurley on the out, and similar to what they did with Le'Veon Bell. So it wouldn't really shock me to see them do that. Conner had a couple of flat routes last season. Of course, Ben, showing that he's getting back into motion and everything they're in. Steelers don't have a lot of drafts, so it'd be wise to maybe pick up an additional quarterback outside of obviously talking about Todd Gurley. But I think from the Gurley perspective, I think his relationship with Kroenke, I think his relationship with a lot of position coaches, especially running back coach, was deteriorating every day. And the fact that he was injured with the knee that kept him out, but they felt the need to add 2 more years to that extension. Todd Gurley, it's not like he's losing. I'll put it this way. If you put him in a situation where he's sitting out during the regular season, he's not going to really be missing much other than playing ball because he's collecting the bread. End of story. So Todd Gurley doing a lot outside of playing in football, but at the same token, he, as long as that knee's better, and I'm really concerned about that knee. I really am, because that kept him out during different stages during the regular season last year, preventing him from being the impact player that he was the year prior or earlier last year. I'll say that.
Well, the one thing you can't lose sight of during free agency, especially this year with this COVID-19, okay, is this. You've got a lot of coaches that are trying to go ahead and get some of their own players where they had worked before. Case in point, okay, yesterday the Chicago Bears acquired Nick Foles. Matt Nagy reunited with Nick via Kansas City. Now, here's an interesting number, RudeDog. You ready? The Detroit Lions have 7 former New England Patriots on the roster, and Matt Patricia only has 6 Lions from when he began his tenure as coach. What do you think of that? Isn't that amazing or what? Everything's all relationship building where you're going to get guys you're familiar with. Don't be surprised if Ron Rivera add some familiarity to Washington, and the beat goes on. Go ahead, Rudy.
Well, no, I was just going to say that it, the loss of Darius Slay to the Eagles was a huge blow for them. But look, I'll be honest with you, Detroit Lions, it doesn't appear as though they're doing anything at least from the quarterback perspective. They would be wise to at least bring in a viable backup. And those free agents that are out there right now, at least from the quarterback position, is Jameis Winston threw almost more interceptions than he did touchdowns last season. Cam Newton hardly ever played because he had that Liz Frank, and he had other injuries and things of that nature. You still have two pretty decent guys out there. I mean, 2015 NFL MVP, we know what happened post-Super Bowl when he lost. And I think that has a lot to do with, clearly, this is not the new head coach's guy, right? This is the old head coach, and Rivera's out. I don't think Rivera wants anything to do with Cam Newton, but I think that there are still a couple spots that would really be viable. And I'd hate to think that Cam Newton would take a backup spot, but at this point, he's almost outpriced himself, almost outmatched himself financially to get another team to really listen to his contract. Say, hey, look, can you guys take this over? What are they going to do? Probably cut him. That's exactly what they did with Todd Gurley. And don't forget, dead cap space hurts you as a team. It limits your ability to acquire free agents because not only do they see that, but the money's not on the books. It's dead. You can't spend it. You can't use it. It's worthless. It's worthless like a dog turd. So here we go with the situation that Todd Gurley finds himself in. I want to go back to Darius Slay in a minute. But I think Todd Gurley has a situation where he can pick or he can sit, right? So he's going to pick a team, or moreover, and I think you're definitely right, and you were onto something talking about him being in Atlanta. I think he would be a great fit in Atlanta, to be honest with you. He played his college ball there. He's a Bulldog for life, as he say, and I think that he would do really good with Matt Ryan and that very stout, run-friendly offensive line that we've known historically that the Atlanta Falcons have had. However, on the other side of that boot, if the Bucs give him an option to come in and pick him up, decide to pick, this guy's a hot commodity. I understand he's got a knee problem. There's still off-season workouts. There's been a lot of changes to that because of the COVID-19, but I think a lot of that has to do with them being player cautious and player aware. And I think the NFLPA did a fantastic job in regards to setting the standards, setting the tone. And I want to talk about this for half a minute, and then we'll go to Darius Slay. The CBA that was just passed recently, there are a lot of players out there saying, don't sign it. And I'm trying to think of one very outspoken defensive NFL player. I'm not going to use his name, but he was screaming and kicking and moaning and groaning about don't sign the CBA. It's this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. And so I think it's Russell Okung. Right. And so Russell himself, don't sign it. Well, if that was the case, was he there to refute the CBA? If you're not going to be part of the solution, you're part of the problem because you didn't try to fix this in advance. In other words, you can try to sign a blank check, but without your signature, the check is worthless. And if they're going to complain about the actions and transactions and things that happen down the road, headed into 2027, 2030 or something to that effect, this is going to, basically quiet all these other players that said, well, why we have the sign? Well, you can't complain about something that you didn't take part of the process in to begin with. So let's just put that out there right then and there. What are your thoughts about CBA? And how do you believe this is affecting players?
Well, the CBA right now is exactly what it's going to be. The guys that are making the most money are going to get the most money, but when they continue to add more revenue because it's 2 playoff games and then you have the extra game, you're going to find a lot of the guys that aren't making as much money benefiting, and it's going to enable them to protect players from going to the XFL. So, it creates more opportunities. I know it's a 100-page document, Rudy, so I certainly don't read too many pages in books in the first place, but from what I've heard from experts in the industry, RudeDog, I think that the players that are less experienced, you're going to find a lot of NFL teams going with a lot of younger players, and say you have a 56 roster or whatever, you're going to find maybe 5 or 10 of them are being paid what they really figure they can be paid. The other 50 are going to be, $1 million a year is a minimum, I think. So it's going to benefit a lot of the other players, and that's how you're going to fill out the rest of the roster.
Well, think about it like this, though. Look at the players who have already retired, that have played full seasons, not halves, not quarters, full seasons. Every full season counts as a full year, a calendar year for them, right? So those games count towards money that you would otherwise not get. They become fluid for these players that otherwise didn't have the opportunities before. They also have a lot to do with the benefits for these retired players. And to be honest with you, this is more of a help to those retired players that otherwise would have never seen that kind of money. Me and Nolan Harrison were tweeting back and forth, and of course I'm always on Twitter at RudeDog Reyes. Throw me a follow. You can follow Scott as well at Scoop with 4 3s.
5 3s.
5 3s. Sorry, you're gonna have to change
that's
that,
okay.
Scott.
That's okay, RudeDog. Hey, 5 of a kind is a good. Hey, Rudy, a 5 of a kind in poker is a really good hand, so that's okay. No problem, brother.
if you're a gambling man, speaking of gambling, Darius Slay, a guy who was the premier cornerback, at least I thought he was premier. And when I say premier, he was premier to the Detroit Lions. And the fact alone that, again, knowing Detroit, understanding what they don't know how to do, and that's to acquire the right players, whether it's through the draft, free agency. It's almost as if they shy away from free agency to the effect of being aggressive, getting the guys to fill those voids, filling those positions. I don't know that Matt Patricia is doing any of this scouting, any of this recruiting, because I know college coaches do it. Do NFL coaches do it? And if so, why did Darius Slay leave? Was it because of money? Was it because of a combination of things? Why does now Darius Slay call Philly and the vet home?
I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Thank you very much for leading me to do this. By the way, it was a good segue earlier. Number 1, who's the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles?
That I don't know. If you would ask me that 10 minutes ago, I probably would have known.
Okay, no big deal. I know where I'm going.
It's Jim Schwartz. I know. Yeah, past guy.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Past tense. Sorry, I just thought about it because I always wondered how he still had a job as a head coach for the Lions. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, actually, I think he deserves another chance to get a head coaching job. That'll probably be for another show. So he was actually the head coach of the Lions, and he actually brought in Slay. So Slay has a tremendous amount of respect for Schwartz, and now they're reunited in Philadelphia. And anytime you have, once again, Rudy, I mentioned this earlier, and I'll say it again, you have a lot of relationships plugged into the equation where there's familiarity with players and coaches. And this is just another one of those examples that you're going to get some great play out of Slay, and he's getting a little bit of extra cabbage too, as in dollars, because I think they got a $50 million extension, 30 of it guaranteed, to play for the Eagles who desperately needed him. So, again, getting to my point, Rudy, he's the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, former head coach of the Lions, and that's where you make the connection. He'll be fine.
Well, I'm not a fan of Jim Schwartz. I never have been. He proved nothing to me as a head coach for the Lions.
Nobody proves anything when you're a head coach of the Lions. So, all right, go on.
Well, okay. Well, Matt certainly did when he was with New England. What happened? He proved his worth, and look what he landed, a head coaching spot in Detroit. I think that's where head coaches go to die. I don't know.
No. Hey, listen, I'm trying to remember the last time a full-time head coach ever got another head coaching job after they left the Lions. And you know what? I'll bet you any money long before you were born, perhaps even before I was born. Gosh, if I want to get into that discussion.
Were the Lions relevant then, too? Oh, wait. No, they weren't.
They won 4 championships. It's just, the last time they won a championship was on my birthday, December 29th, but 1957, 5 years before they were hatched. Now, I don't know for sure, but I believe George Wilson was the last Lions head coach that ever got a full-time job when he went from the Lions over to the Miami Dolphins, who was the first coach. I'd have to correct myself on that, but I have a gut feeling that's exactly what took place. But But in other words, they don't get hired anywhere else.
Well,
Jim Caldwell didn't get hired. My goodness, and he was the first head coach in many, many years that actually left with a winning record. So, go figure, man. That's all I can tell you.
Well, all I can say is this: is that if you are the guy and you're supposed to be the head coach, and you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to make the tough decisions, and those tough decisions aren't sometimes the best decisions, right?
Right.
And so the type of moves, very questionable, to come over to play under Jim Schwartz wasn't very good. I didn't like his style. He was non-aggressive. He was very passive. It's just not something that I find. Now, okay, you have the other end of the spectrum. You have head coaches like Bill Cowher who like to, fly spit at 100 miles an hour. Put on your face shield and just beware of that in advance, But Darius Slay found himself a serious payday. I mean, he left Detroit making pretty decent money, and now he's in a situation where a lot of his money is basically guaranteed. And the sad part about that is that he was due for it. His play there, oh my gosh! I mean, it's just. And I understand people want to make trades and things of that nature, but this was a situation that, when you pick a guy, that will give Detroit a third round, 85th over on a fifth round in the 166th in a trade, that you're not really saying a whole lot there, to be quite honest with you. But when you're talking 3 years at $50 million, which includes that $30 million guaranteed, so this is massive payday for him. He wasn't getting that in Detroit. I like Darius Slay. I watched him play on the ball. I watched him play on the receiver. He is an outstanding cornerback. That's what the Eagles have been needing for a while.
Right.
Now, what they did was, in lieu of getting Darius Slay, they cut Malcolm Jenkins. What does Jenkins do? Jenkins leaves, gets picked up by New Orleans, where he was picked off to begin with by the Saints. And now finds himself in a very, very comfortable situation. Already proven Super Bowl winner. He's making $32 million. A lot of it's guaranteed right up front. I mean, he plays a free safety, but still, he played lights out while in Philadelphia. And the fact alone that he was able to cement his career there, it's almost as if what he meant to Philadelphia was what Tom Brady meant to the Patriots, to the extent of who he was, his personality, and what he did in his respective position for the team that he played on. What do you think about the Slay move? Were you slayed by this trade?
Well, what always bothered me about the thing, Rudy, is that I'm surprised the Lions didn't get a bigger return than a third and a fifth round pick for a 3-time Pro Bowl. I mean, that's what I think.
Doesn't surprise me at all. It's the Lions, man.
Well, I know. Come on, listen. Just because you had more success in Pittsburgh than I've had doesn't mean that, we still can't be skeptical and upset when you didn't get a good ROI for the guy. You follow me? I mean, hey, listen, we haven't even been to a Super Bowl, so don't forget that, even though it really makes me bite my tongue telling you about this, and you won a Super Bowl on our field at Ford Field, okay? Although, so I think the Lions actually went ahead. The third and the fifth round pick doesn't do anything. They should have gotten the first round pick, or first and a third, if Slay's as good as he is. So
well, he's as good as he is, but again, think about this. Guys don't end up in the Pro Bowl. Why? Because the rest of the defense is sad. They're not very good. They're not very athletic. So the overall defensive rankings will diminish your individual play. I don't care what anybody says. They can talk about it all they want, but at the end of the day, it's what your team does collectively that will allow for you to be successful and to be recognized for your individual success as well as a collective success. And Detroit has not been successful at all. Let me just throw that out there.
But he's landed. Oh, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, Rudy. Okay.
No, that's perfectly okay. I want to segue the whole Saints conversation because Sean Payton today alone, Sean Payton was diagnosed with COVID. So the coronavirus does not discriminate, and I just want to say this for the record. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't tell you that you have to be a certain age in order to be infected or die from this disease. Okay,
Right.
end of story. So let me just put that out there right there. However, Coach Payton goes on to say that, there's been no sweatiness, no upper respiratory problems. Seems to be in good shape for the most part. But, again, we have seen this, start before in regards to it didn't, start out so bad, but it ended up being bad for some of these guys. I think
Right.
I can only say, and I can put my prayers out there for Coach Payton in hopes that he is okay and he actually recovers completely and is able to live a normal average life. And I know the NFL is probably the least of his concern, but to come back and coach would be a true dynamic story all into itself. So I just wanted to throw that out there for Sean Payton.
Well, no, and you should. I mean, let's face the reality. While every team, every league is canceling the games, just so happens the NFL, is during their off season, so they haven't lost anything yet in terms of cancellations. When this thing gets a little bit more, as we drag it out a little further, it becomes more of a headache than it is now. But it's a headache anyway. So yeah, I hope Sean Payton rebounds, and I think the reason he went public with this, he wanted to make sure even a guy of mine stature can get it. So, I have nothing to hide. I'm looking to get better. And he's just trying to send a big message out there, no more or less than when Magic Johnson was diagnosed with the HIV virus. And you know what? Everybody thought that was a death sentence leading to the AIDS virus. And how did it work out? Magic beat it, okay? And he took a lot of medication. So there's hope out there for these kinds of things. It's just we're a little bit new into the COVID-19 game right now. So, obviously we're all a little bit in a situation where we're living the way we don't want to with the social distance business. But I'm with you all the way there, Rudy. I really am.
Well, the good thing is we'll be able to fist bump virtually. So kudos to Coach Payton, and I really hope that he gets better soon. Speaking of more sports-related situations involving coronavirus, obviously Kevin Durant were tested. Four, I believe 3 or 4 players from the 76ers were also tested. They're obviously not going to say who it was, at least at this time, other than Christian Woods showing a positive test in the Detroit Pistons system. And, of course, they all had relation to what? They had a game against everybody.
Free.
They had a game against the Jazz where Rudy Gobert played. Donovan Mitchell, obviously a teammate of his, were playing on the same court with the same connection, with the same everything. And to be quite honest with you, this is kind of a scary situation because all it takes is a breath, and all of a sudden people are being infected with this virus. And of course, you have to look back at these past games, Scott, in regards to Brooklyn played the Celtics, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, Bulls, and the Lakers. Do you expect more to come out of this from NBA teams in regards to who was tested positive for this coronavirus?
No question about it. Oh, yeah. And the Jazz played the Pistons. And here's another one that I don't know if you're familiar with. John Forsland of the Carolina Hurricanes in the NHL, when Carolina visited the Detroit Red Wings, stayed, I think, in the same hotel room as, I believe it was Gobert, one of those players, and he got infected. Did you know that?
No.
Broadcaster.
No,
yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'm here to educate you too, RudeDog.
The education, well, the real education, Scott, are those people that are out there that are spreading this like wildfire. If you get symptoms, go get tested. Go get checked.
Absolutely.
Don't mess around with it. Don't think, it's just a flu, this, that, and the other. Do you not know what's going on around you? Get out from the rock you're under and go get tested immediately. There are free testing sites all over the country, and all these tests are free. So just kind of be aware of that. And I think...
think about it for a minute, Rudy. Okay, the Pistons are playing the Utah Jazz over at Little Caesars Arena, right? And then within a matter of hours, you have the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Red Wings, and then you have 2 people within a 72-hour time frame or whatever it may be getting infected by this COVID-19. A hockey broadcaster who, Portland's really good, and of course Rudy Gobert probably. I think none of his teammates liked him anymore
Well,
So
and the worst part is,
our listeners to do is
yeah,
right, get tested.
yeah, get tested, wash your hands. Don't, if you're not feeling well, stay away, quarantine yourself. Just do the best for you and your family and whatever you do. Speaking of family, 76ers, 3 more members from their, I guess, the operations support staff, players and coaches were all tested, and all 3 of those tests came back positive. So this is spreading fast. It's going to get worse before it gets better, especially in the sports organization. And then today alone, a Nuggets employee, a member of the organization, obviously, whether or not that person was a player or team employee hasn't been disclosed. However, also tested positive for the coronavirus. So this does not discriminate against anyone. Age, the whole age adage before beauty does not apply here. And then furthermore, this is just a big shutdown of absolutely everything. An Ottawa senator came out positive for it as well. He has mild symptoms and is self-isolating. And Mikel Arteta, everybody knows that he was also positive. The English Premier Arsenal side was tested positive for that. I mean, this is unbelievable, and it's really shutting down sports in every single way possible, making what everybody takes out there for granted, that sports is going to be there, it'll always be there no matter what happens, etc. and so forth and such. A guy by the name of Adam Silver, which you probably should know, Scott, well, you probably already do, but those that don't know, he's a commissioner for the NBA. He laid out the framework for everything that's actually going on right now and what the NBA is really going to do and what they continue to do in regards to what the schedule is going to look like if play resumes this season. He's really taking this by the horns. What do you think about Adam Silver's response to all this, and is it trending in the right direction for the NBA to move forward, if not this year, the following year?
Well, there are a lot of things I don't like what Adam Silver's done. I don't like the idea that he's tinkering with the playoff format, and then the season tournament and a lot of the things he's trying to do. But I got to give him credit here. Once something badly took place with Gobert, and of course Donovan Mitchell has this thing as well. I think they're teammates, and I got to give the commissioner credit. He made a bold move that caught the entire sporting world's attention, and then everything canceled, and dominoes dropped. And with me, Rudy, being an online publication like we are at the South Florida Tribune, that means I'm not getting the updates I need from around the country. But obviously, I understand that thanks to Adam Silver doing what he did, then I think he definitely gets an A for handling this situation. I think he's done a really, really good job. And you talked about KD for a minute. Isn't it amazing? This guy could go out there and make news, not on the basketball court, but he's got coronavirus. My goodness, get me some stats, KD. Okay, not coronavirus. But again, we have to hear this, right, Rudy? We're talking about Kevin Durant with the coronavirus. To me, it's like saying Allen Iverson said, practice? What do I need practice for? My goodness, really. But you know where I'm going with this, Rudy, and that's this, okay? Kevin Durant is a big name, getting attention for this whole thing. Who knows what he was doing to get this virus? It's not like he made the smartest decision before when he was Golden State, when he was banged up to play again, and Golden State was taking a hit with the Toronto Raptors. So, but to answer your question, Rudy, Adam Silver's done a good job with this, so more kudos to him.
Well, I think he has as well. I mean, he's really trying to look at the post-sports landscape. His mentality, his attitude, his demeanor, everything that is targeted toward what the season will look like in regards to no sports programming is just one of the things that applies to the new reality. That's a part of the new reality. What we call reality now wasn't like that a week ago. Wasn't like that 2 weeks ago. And so we really have to follow mental guidelines to say, well, yeah, we may have cabin fever, but we're healthy. You may not have to go to work. We're working at home, but at least we're healthy. You have to keep that in the back of your mind. And I think Adam Silver's doing a very good job in regards to the diversion he believes people need to have and the entertainment value that we've we as a culture have built around us. We've gone to the movie, we've done all these different things to keep us entertained, and I think that people still need to keep that in mind, that this will eventually go away. This is not meant to be forever. It may be right now, but not forever. And I think that when you're talking about Kevin Durant, whether or not he knew he had it beforehand, well, people get the flu constantly, so it's not as if he knew in advance that this is a corona flu. He didn't have a clue. I mean, heck, I've been calling it kung flu for the last week, because this will kick you right on your keister, if you're not careful. So this kung flu coronavirus stuff is just out of control. But I think overall, when you look at what Adam Silver's done, now make no mistake, okay, fine. So the All-Star game may not have been everybody's cup of tea. I actually enjoyed it. I actually appreciated it. But what I don't appreciate is Rudy Gobert knowing in advance that he had the coronavirus, yet he still played. Something tells me there's something rotten in Bangkok, and that was the fact alone that he didn't know, that he either didn't prepare for, didn't think about, didn't even cross his mind in order to determine whether or not, maybe I'm not really feeling so. Maybe I shouldn't be playing. And then I just need to go home, right? So he goes home and nobody else gets affected. I think that was, clearly there's some ignorance in regards to that, because the coronavirus thing wasn't so, vibrant and new and relative, and it wasn't so out there as it is right now. What do you think of Gobert? Do you think Gobert was hiding it or something?
You know something? You lead me really well. The one thing I really have a problem with Gobert is, how do you go to a press conference and touch every stupid microphone and downplay the significance? It's like it's nothing, and all of a sudden it's become an unprecedented headache for everybody. Really, you're going to go out there and joke around about something and put your hand on every stink microphone. You got reporters' microphones out there, and you're downplaying it, and all of a sudden he's trying to go ahead and really downplay the situation. Albeit he gave $500,000 out of his pocket to help out down the line, but that's not the point, Rudy. It isn't. Don't be stupid. You don't put your hand on every microphone. And, you're right. Everything you said, I agree with you. So there's no debating with that. But negligence and stupidity, come on, Rudy. Do you have a lot of patience for either negligence or stupidity? You tell me that you do.
I'm probably going to say no to that.
Well, good. That's two no's.
Because everybody knows about this now. This isn't something new. This is a new reality for everyone, and not having sports on TV is that reality. So you either find something else to do or talk about sports as if it's there. We just spoke about free agency in the NFL. It's viable. It's happening. It's still going on. Whether or not the NFL draft is going on, it's a whole other story. But the NFL did a really good thing, and the NBA followed suit. This is the first time where it was the role reversal. Usually it's the NBA leading the NFL in regards to proactivity instead of reactivity. Well, the NBA said, you know what? Well, if the NFL's offering it for free, why can't we? And that's exactly what they did. They said, you know what? We're going to give you NFL pass. Matter of fact, I was watching last year's game against the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Then I switched to the Pro Bowl. Look, this is free entertainment, people, and it's free. You just have to subscribe, and it's good until May. So it's not as if you have to pay anything for it. You get coaches, film, you get all kinds of stuff. NBA said, you know what? We're going to follow suit. So this time the shoe was on the other foot, not the left, but the right one. At the NBA, the NFL led with the left to go back on the right to make that throw. And of course, that transformed from a football into a basketball. Adam Silver caught that and said, you know what, we're going to do that too. So the NBA also, you can watch every single game for free on League Pass. I don't know the exact date because I installed the NFL. I didn't install the NBA one yet because I can only watch so much at one time. But,
is that right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't have 4 eyes.
No, you don't, but you got great eyes for Twitter, though. You do, man. I swear, I've never seen a Twitter machine like you, so take that as a compliment, RudeDog.
Well, thanks a lot. Well, sometimes a machine needs the grease. So there you go there. This is Rudy Reyes with Scott Morganroth at Take No Punches. Throw us a follow. Come on now. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. It's a lot easier than shoveling snow. I can tell you that much right now. So just at Take No Punches.
I don't know what snow is down here, although I got to tell you a crazy situation in Arizona. We did have sleet out in Phoenix last Friday, but that was as far as I got to it. But what can I tell you? Yeah. Also, if you can give me a follow on Twitter at Tribune South, that would be totally appreciated as well.
Yeah, always nice. Always nice to know the Tribune South is there.
So let's go over some other NFL things, can we, Rudy? I know a lot of things took place over the last few days. Let's talk about Teddy Bridgewater. Good move for Carolina.
I really like that move for Carolina because now Bridgewater's in a situation. I'm glad you mentioned this. I want to talk about Bridgewater. Bridgewater's a guy who was injured, just decimated, non-contact injury. He tore, I think, an ACL and MCL. I mean, he was basically done in the NFL, at least from that non-contact to just a motion outside of the pocket. He's a total comeback story if I ever heard one. He played limitedly last year, right? We've seen Taysom Hill take a lot of great snaps, make a lot of fantastic throws, but of course he was franchise tagged by the Saints, so he couldn't go anywhere. However, Teddy Bridgewater, the most viable backup outside of having Taysom Hill for New Orleans, definitely provided him a very big payday. And I think more importantly, he definitely showed why he was valued, why they really bought into him as a person. You're talking about relationships earlier. It has a lot to do with it, but it's not everything. It's not everything. It's about 80 to 90% of everything in regards to where you go, what team selects you, what team picks you. And I think Teddy Bridgewater did a fantastic job during his rehab process. And kudos to the Saints for allowing him to do that, by the way. We can't remiss that one. But the fact alone that Teddy went over to a new system, new head coach, he got a massive payday. Definitely worthy of it, to say the least. I remember when he was in Minnesota, along with a guy by the name of Case Keenum, who's obviously not as viable as a backup as I thought he would have been, especially in D.C. But Teddy Bridgewater certainly will do a lot of great things, will spread out defenses. As long as Carolina has the tools and the weaponry, maybe in a two tight end set, maybe in a bunch group on the left or right side. I think you put Teddy Bridgewater in a system he's familiar with, and we've seen it last year, and I made reference to it before with Deshaun Watson, and the fact alone that you get Teddy Bridgewater in a situation where he can make those dime throws, especially when you're in the red zone. I think that really says a lot about his mechanics, his personality, his attitude toward the game, and where he came from, and now knowing where he's going to go. And clearly he found his landing spot. What do you think about Bridgewater's move? I think it's a great move for Carolina, for sure.
Well, here's what I think. Okay, we can't lose sight of this, all right, Rudy? Number one, the offensive coordinator for Carolina is Joe Brady. He was assistant for the Saints for 2 years and also with LSU. So you already have a coach that already believes in you and know what you can do. To me, that sets you up for success. So I think he's going to be fine. You couldn't depend on Cam Newton anymore. The guy was busted up, so... And Teddy Bridgewater, I saw him play against the Jaguars last year, and he looked pretty good. But, he's going to get a fresh start to show what he is, and he deserved the payday, and I think he deserves a fresh start. I think it's a fine move for the Panthers. Now, unfortunately, the Panthers don't have Greg Olsen, so there's one-year tight end, so you're going to rely on Christian McCaffrey a lot, Rudy. And when you start relying on Christian McCaffrey, you just better hope you don't burn him out, and they better have some more offensive weapons. That's the only concern I have out there.
Yeah,
situation.
Sure, absolutely. I kind of want to move in my neck of the woods for a minute, to mention Bridgewater for half a second. I think Bridge will do a great job there. I really do, and I think he's just going to get that much better. Third year in the NFL. First year was kind of a oops. Second is recovery. His third year. Definitely going to be a solid player for certain, especially in Carolina, where they really need more of a mature. And I'm not saying that Cam's immature. There have been signs of him showing immaturity, but I think Bridgewater brings. When you work under a guy by the name of Drew Brees, you learn things. Drew will teach you things. He's not going to teach you to replace him because no starting quarterback, no starting position player in the NFL will do that. However, what that does is that sets up a solid segue for Bridgewater to learn underneath Brees to a point where he felt comfortable enough, knowledgeable enough, and be able to execute in the Brees-like fashion. So definitely jury's out in Carolina. I look for them to be the contenders in the upcoming season. Granted, there is one. I'm just putting that out there now.
Well, let me point this out to you, Rudy, okay? If Breeze doesn't sign that 2-year extension, I think that Bridgewater is the heir apparent to Breeze. But when he saw that, that Drew was hanging around, well, then that became apparent. Because I know there was interest in Bridgewater with the Bears, who ultimately landed with Nick Foles. So, and that changed the game altogether, RudeDog.
Yeah.
So again, that's where, as we always say in our industry, where the dominoes drop, that's pretty much what happened there.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, I believe that Taysom Hill probably would have been the ultimate heir apparent because this guy's a trickster. Make no mistake. He's played in all phases on an NFL field. It's hard to find a quarterback or a highly skilled position player. I mean, I understand if you're playing safety and you move to free safety, or if you're a safety, you play a double shadow, in a cornerback set, or whatever situation might be. But to find a guy like Taysom Hill that's so well-rounded to do all the things that he's done for the Big Easy and for Saints fans, I can't say that I appreciate what happened at the end of that very last game where they should have won that, but did not. That's another story, and that's a whole nother time, a whole nother segment. This is Rudy Reyes, Scott Morganroth at Take No Punches. Throw us a follow. Love it. Never leave it. Like it. Share it, because we're into that kind of funky stuff. So speaking of funky, Chris Harris, which is a funky move, I think it is, leaving Denver. Why? Because of money. I think Chris Harris leaves Denver, heads over to another AFC West foe to play for the Chargers. And I think this instantly gives Chargers more credibility defensively in order to stop those passes, in order to, he's one of those not giving up a lot of chunk yards after the catch kind of guy, because that's what he's done his entire career. And, of course, heading into his third season, certainly something to put his hat onto. Ended up winning a Super Bowl and so on. But Chris Harris is a guy that I obviously didn't get a chance to meet him, much less interview him while he was here. But the other end of that spectrum would be Justin Simmons, whom the Denver Broncos placed a franchise tag on Justin about a little under a week ago. Justin, I haven't really had a chance to interview or even speak to Justin about it, but he didn't seem to be upset by it. I think he's comfortable with the system. I think he recognizes the types of challenges without having Chris Harris on the opposite side of him. But I think that the Broncos are really, and to be honest with you, the Broncos really didn't do a whole lot. I mean, they got rid of Joe Flacco. They cut him due to a failed designation health-wise, just to kind of say bye, thanks for your 1-year service, and call it a day. He wasn't very good in the system. I think Joe Flacco's best bet, to be quite honest with you, he's already won a Super Bowl. He just needs to retire and call it a day. But they went in and acquired Jeff Driscoll, another Detroit name, and ended up signing him to the Denver roster to back up Drew Lock. And the things that I've seen from Drew Lock last year, I think Driscoll, not that Driscoll's been in there any longer, maybe just one more year, opposite of Drew Lock being his rookie year. Of course, not how he wanted it, I'm sure. But I think Driscoll has a little bit more experience, and I think you're going to see these guys battle it out at the upcoming training camp. Again, if there is an NFL season, you're going to see him out there. All signs pointing towards the NFL season, but let me just kind of put that out there. And I don't know that the Broncos have made solid moves. Do you like the Driscoll signing from Detroit? And if so, what are your thoughts about Jeff as a whole?
No, I don't like it for you. I really don't. He was 0-3 with Detroit, showed me very little. So I think the Broncos could have done better there. I really did, with the quarterbacks that are out there.
Who could they have grabbed? Cam Newton, maybe. But because Cam didn't want a backup role.
Well, right now he's going to find out sooner or later that may be the only thing that's out there for him to get. And Jameis Winston's out there. I think he'd certainly be a high-profile individual. He's not going to get the money that he thinks he's going to get. So I can just say right now, Jeff Driscoll's a mistake. Matt Moore's out there, Rudy. He's a capable backup, wasn't he, for the Miami Dolphins? He's a journeyman that's done pretty well.
He's relatively serviceable, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, right. So Matt Moore's always good. And just so you know, the Lions signed Chase Daniels to back up Matthew Stafford. If they knew that. So, I don't know how good he'll be in Detroit. but there's a lot of good. Well, I think Blake Bortles isn't all that bad for a backup either. Remember, this guy won a couple playoff games, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, you know what, Rudy? I'm sorry, pal. I can't give Jeff Driscoll the endorsement that you people in the Rocky Mountains want to hear. I just don't.
Well, I look. The guy took a $1,500,000 discount. It's not as if he got paid any more money. He's just a backup, and that's really all he is, a serviceable backup. Now, the only way he raises his stakes, as you know, is gameplay. Quarterback play, understanding his checkdowns, knowing where he's going to throw the ball to, knowing when not to throw, when to run, when to recognize coverage, not to throw into double-covered guys, things of that nature. All the nuancial things that you want a quarterback to have on your team. The fact that he got a pay cut, he got a $750,000 signing bonus, which anybody would like to do. But the financials on this, he signed a 2-year, $5 million deal. He got a $1,500,000 signing bonus, guaranteed. It's not as if they really win the tank on this guy. I mean, they only took $1,750,000 from a cap hit, so it's not as if they really, kind of sunk their feet in, their toes in the sand in order to get Jeff Driscoll. I think Matt Moore, and I think Matt Moore would have been more of a serviceable quarterback. But the fact that Cam Newton did want to be a backup, and I can't say that I blame him, but look, as a player, you have to recognize and you have to kind of flip the script. Would you want someone who's had kind of an emotional issue? Would you want someone who hasn't exhibited the kind of NFL MVP type of play, during the regular season, during a Super Bowl, to end up with a post-game conference like that? I don't think that really shows maturity at all. I think that's one of the reasons, other than the obvious, him basically pricing himself out, as we were talking about earlier, that other players find themselves in a situation where, I want X amount of dollars and I'm not going to play until I get that. And I think that's a lot. It really, really well served to take what's there, to take what's available.
You ever heard of humble pie? Guess what? Cam Newton's going to eat it. He will. I mean, yeah, his professionalism, as you mentioned, to me, comes into question when you have an idiotic Super Bowl post-game press conference. And he's done a lot of stupid things that really haven't looked all that good. So, too bad. If he wants to be employed in this league, he will. And, as much as I hate to bring up Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick knows too much bad publicity is going to get you blackballed. I don't think Cam Newton's gone that far yet. But with all due respect, I just think that Cam Newton just better realize that if that's the opportunity that's out there, and we can't lose sight of one big thing, RudeDog. One injury puts you in the football game. One. So you better be. It's like you're on call. You're on call. If somebody goes down, you better be, and then that's when you have an opportunity to win the job. If you want to think about Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady. Drew Bledsoe gets knocked out. Tom Brady does pretty well, and he never looked back, did he?
No, not at all. Neither did Ben Roethlisberger. Tommy Maddox went down, and here comes Ben Roethlisberger to the rescue.
Well,
he was a starter from that point forward. So, it's all about production.
Right.
Nick Foles did not produce in Jacksonville, now headed over to Chicago with all that dead money, just like the Rams have, tons of dead money, millions of dollars in dead money, I might add. And again, preventing themselves and putting them out of situations where we gave them a bad contract. Instead of admitting it, maybe internally they admitted it to themselves, but we just put a bad product out there. It wasn't good. We overpaid. That was beyond not good. And I think a lot of those teams you're going to start to see a trend of teams that have overpaid with dead money will now start to draft down to see what they can find. And I think scouts are going to be a lot more fluid with those types of decisions to bring back that information, that amount of data, that analysis to head coaches, owners, and to give them compelling reasons why they should sign X, Y, and Z people and to not take this and that. And look, I understand a scout's position. I know what they do. I understand. I respect what they do. But again, you got to scout it properly in order to get the right product on the field. And as it stands right now, the Jaguars don't have that. And as much as I'd like to say that the Rams are ultimate contenders in the NFC West, that remains to be seen because of all the pieces that they've lost. including cutting Todd Gurley, which they could have easily acquired something for. Instead, they just cut him. Why? Because nobody wants to take on that contract because of that 2-year extension.
Well, I think the one thing about Jacksonville, and I'm around the team quite a bit, is Gardner Minshew. We knew when he got drafted he was going to be a potentially a good quarterback. It just so happens that when Nick Foles got hurt and Gardner took over the job, he was a spark plug for the team and got him a handful of wins. So, you've got a low, you have a quarterback that you knew could potentially be good. He was mentored by Mike Leach, which didn't hurt any either. So, with all due respect, Gardner Minshew is a very smart quarterback, is really what he is. So I think, and Nick Foles, when he did have an opportunity to play when he came back from injury, didn't do himself any favors. And by that time, Rudy, the season was lost.
Well, season was lost because, and look, the Jaguars have lost a lot of pieces as well. Yeah. And they're going to have to rebuild the system. They're going to have to recognize what they don't have, what they need to have, what they should have. But the bigger question is what they're going to get. And obviously that there's a lot to be desired there, especially in Jacksonville. This is Rudy Reyes, along with Scott Morganroth at Take No Punches. Throw us a follow. We certainly appreciate it. Love it, like it, never leave it, share it, because we're into that.
Well, don't lose sight of this, Rudy, in Jacksonville. They got a couple picks from the Jalen Ramsey trade, and Doug Marrone and David Caldwell are under you win or you're out. That's where Sean Khan's at. Now, would they give him a little flexibility since they've gotten rid of a lot of his players? I don't know. That, to me, time will tell. But, again, like I told you with Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, Sean Khan and David Caldwell are getting another year. And, of course, Tom Coughlin was your scapegoat last year, although I think Coughlin deserved to be fired anyways because of the embarrassment they had with the fines and the reputation that the team had for the workouts that were not supposed to be workouts. So,
well, I think a lot to be said for the Jacksonville organization and what Khan needs to do. What he really needs to do is a serious internal restructure. I said this on a past podcast, and I'm going to hold that true. And until that happens, they're going to find themselves in a very poor situation that is not going to benefit them in the long run unless, again, it's about scouting. It's about signing guys to the right contracts, the right amount of money for the right reasons. To kind of trickle back a little bit, speaking of positive test results, Marcus Smart, who plays for the Celtics, came back positive. He was tested 5 days ago and just received news that he came back positive for COVID-19. He's mentioning it's the highest, with the highest of seriousness. It's the number one priority for our nation's health experts, and we must get more testing ASAP. And I completely agree with you, Marcus. I wish you the best, and I hope you get better soon, and I hope it doesn't get any worse. So, again, this is Rudy Reyes, Scott Morgan. Scott, thanks a lot, man. Tell everybody where they can contact you, reach you, and where they can listen to the show.
Well, I just want to close out on one other note, if I have another 30 seconds, a minute, if I can. I think things are looking good for the Miami Dolphins. They're spending a lot of money. They've stockpiled draft choices as well. So, and now I'll be curious to see what happens with the Fish. This is a team that everybody thought they were tanking for Tua last year, and boy, they got 5 wins, and things are looking awfully good in Miami. And I don't know what you were. And Austin Hooper, wasn't he a guy that you were thinking about it as well at some point?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Hooper would be great in that system, which obviously he'll be able to do. It depends on the quarterback they get now. Now, everybody needs to put this in perspective. Tom Brady's no longer there in the AFC East, so there's going to be a new champion crowned, and it's not going to be the Patriots. I hate to burst your bubbles out there or your fantasy drafts or whatever that might be. But the new king of the mountain may very well be the Miami Dolphins. I think the Dolphins, who just had a conversation with Tua Tagovailoa in regards to how he's feeling, just kind of get the general census of how he is, how he's doing, and how you believe that he could be this great piece to this Miami Dolphins offense. And he could very well be that pick. And of course, you have the number one, pick from the Steelers and acquiring Minka Fitzpatrick last year, which I think was an absolute win for both organizations. Probably one of the first trades I've seen actually occur where both teams made out like bandits. Steelers didn't quite make it. Miami, I mean, I understand they didn't want to tank, but to be quite honest with you, I think that's really what they were doing at the end of it when it's all said and done. I understand they still have Fitzpatrick, or in some cases Fitz tragic when he doesn't play well, or Fitz magic when he does. So hopefully he can get that underneath his belt, get that straightened out, but they still need a quarterback, and I really believe they're going to end up drafting Tua. I believe that strongly. So
I'm with you there.
Yes, Scott, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you coming on, and this definitely will be posted everywhere.
Enjoyed it, Rudy. Look forward to the next time, all right? Really a fun show, a lot of content, and a lot of information. Hope everybody got a lot out of it. So
I hope so, too.
I look forward to the next run, buddy.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and check us out on our next podcast. And, of course, stay tuned for the RudeDog Show. I'll have a new show coming real soon, so stay tuned for that one. This is Rudy Reyes and Scott Morganroth. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.